what I would see is the definition of culture. Again, it's a very broad concept, but I think the definition of culture for me, the most profound meaning or definition that I've heard is that culture is basically the way we do things around here. And the way we do things around here might be different than the way other people do things over there, but we develop our own culture. And Irish culture has been something that has been very pronounced and very defined over the years, because it has been threatened so often over the years. And anything that is threatened, I believe, becomes defined and even more defined because of the threat that lies to it. And it also becomes more valued. So what am I talking about in terms of threats to Irish culture? One of the biggest and one of the most kind of articulated threats came during the penal laws in Ireland. The penal laws in the 1700s, where our dear neighbours across the little pond, the lovely English establishment, with neighbours like them, who would need enemies in fairness, but anyway. So when they were ruling Ireland, they seen that there was a threat to the English establishment through the vitality of Irish culture. So they started to ban anything that was associated with Irish culture. So our music got banned, our dance got banned, our writings got banned, our writers weren't allowed to write, our singers weren't allowed to sing, our dancers weren't allowed to dance, we weren't allowed to speak our own language. We weren't allowed to speak our own language. Our singers weren't allowed to sing our own songs. And so our culture was suppressed. And it's just my own personal belief, when anything gets depressed or gets suppressed, it becomes more valuable. It went underground and it became more stronger. Shortly after that, of course, moving into the 1800s, the mass exodus from Ireland to America during the genocide that I just spoke about on the stage over there, when people came in their millions. It's estimated that between the years of 1845 and 1847, that there was 1.5 million Irish people came to America. 1.5 million. Now that's a serious figure in 2 years, given that the population of Ireland today currently is 4.5 million. Wow. At that time, it probably would have been a little bit higher, maybe 6 million. But still, there was a mass kind of exodus out of our country. Interestingly enough, when the Irish came to America, a lot of them came to New York, and they went through Ellis Island, and eventually they made their way into Manhattan. Those of them who were lucky enough to be admitted, because if they carried any sort of disease or whatever, they were turned back. Now, where they went when they were turned back, that was a different story. A lot of them died and never made it in at all. But those who did make it in, one of the first places that they found any sort of welcome in Manhattan was down in a place called the Five Points. And down in the Five Points, it was ruled and it was governed by African Americans at the time, by black people. And the black people were the only ones that welcomed Irish people in, because we were seen as being economic refugees, and economic refugees weren't wanted in the city at the time. But eventually they found a place within the Five Points, found a welcome, and started to develop their own, what we see today as Irish American culture. And I think that was the start of it, this Irish American culture. So an exaggeration of that is what we have here today in the Motor City Irish Festival. If you were to come to Ireland, if we were to bring you back with us to Ireland on Monday week, and we were to travel the whole country of Ireland with me and Paddy, apart from having a bit of crack with the two of us and putting on a few pounds, you will not find this. This doesn't exist in Ireland. I remember when we came to America to play music first, back in, what year did we come? 2011. We were astonished, absolutely astonished at the efforts that people went to proclaim their Irish culture, to own their Irish culture, and to own their Irish identity. We were blown away by it. Now, if you were naive and didn't see exactly what was happening, you could label that as people being plastic paddies, right? And in Ireland, some people will see Irish Americans as being that, that you wear green. Most people here at the festival is wearing some element of green, apart from us. And most people will represent their Irishness through a logo in some way, shape or form, either a shamrock or a harp or something like that. We don't do that. As Irish people, we don't do that because we don't need to do it. Because my accent is my passport. Do you know what I mean? But I really salute people who do that. And I really value people who do that, to own their culture and own their heritage. I think it's a marvellous thing. It really is a culture, a heritage, a history that was deliberately trying to be oppressed and to be eliminated only less than 300 years ago. And if that had happened, none of us would be here today. None of us would be here today. So I salute people. I salute Bridget, and I salute Tim, and I salute Patrick Johnson, and I salute Kevin Murphy, the people who organise these festivals, who go to extra lengths to own their Irish heritage, to claim their Irish heritage, and to progress their Irish heritage as well. Yesterday, we had the honour of having a very brief stop in a recording studio with Steve and with John from the Codgers. And now it was really quick, and we probably didn't give it the time it deserved, but nonetheless, to kind of form them bridges between a band here in Detroit who we value very much, and we see the efforts that they go to, and we understand the commitment that they make to proclaim their Irish culture, their Irish heritage, and to forge them links, and to be in some way associated with that was a real honour yesterday. It really was. It was a real honour yesterday. And this idea of progression of culture can't happen in isolation. It has to happen when we spread our wings. It has to happen by us coming here to Detroit. We go back home refreshed and more valued in terms of our own culture. And I think that's a marvellous thing. I think it's a really marvellous thing. So I salute people who make them efforts, you know. I look at Mark over here, when we come to Detroit, he's there all the time. Not just to see us, but there to celebrate, to commemorate to his culture, his history, and so on. And there's so many other people that do the same thing. And I think it's really, really brilliant. Myself as an Irishman, I'm a very proud Irishman. I wouldn't want to be from any other country. I wouldn't want to, even though I wasn't born in Ireland. And this is an interesting concept. Not too many people will know this. I was born in England. No, I wasn't. I was born in Wales, which is not England. I was born in the UK, but I had no choice in that matter, to be honest. So that brings me to this point, which I think is a crucial point, right? I think in terms of culture and identity, we cannot change where we were born, right? I can't change where I was born. If I could, I would, but I cannot change where I was born. So my country of origin, or my culture of origin that I was born into, I cannot change, okay? But my culture of choice, I have a choice in that. I can choose that. I can choose to be Irish if I want to be, you know? In Ireland we have people who come to Ireland as, think about this, we now have people who come to Ireland as economic refugees from countries like Nigeria, from places like Romania, from places like Mongolia and places like that. People who are black, people who are Hispanic, they come to Ireland. And for the most part they're given a very good welcome. They choose Irish culture. Their children speak with Irish accents. Their children speak the Irish language. Their children play Irish music. They play hurling, they play football. And they are as Irish as I am, or as Paddy is, or as Steve is, or as Bridget is. Regardless of who we are, we can choose to be Irish. I believe that we can make that choice. And how do we express that? We express that by celebrating, by commemorating, by understanding, by learning, by reading, by our history. I think to be anything or to understand anything, we first of all have to understand where we came from and understand our history. Then we have to understand where we are today, and we also have to have an aspiration of where we want to go, as well as a people and as a culture. And I think if we have them three things, and we're able to come collectively together at events like this, I think we're in a very good position. I think we're in a really, really good position. The figures that I have is that currently there's 4.5 million people living in Ireland, right? But there is 365 million across the world that claim Irish descent. We read are a very good in the reproductive system. or people are opting in to be Irish. And I think a lot of people are opting in to be Irish. And I think it's very, very good. I think it's really powerful. We travel the world, myself, Paddy and the lads, we travel the world playing music. We were in Germany, I don't know, how long ago was that? A couple of weeks ago. Yeah, we were in Hamburg in Germany, and we were like superstars because we have an Irish accent, you know? Because I suppose we have a way about us. Irish people are generally seen to be friendly and accommodating and whatever and welcoming. And we try and carry that as much as we can. We're in Walmart, or not Walmart this morning, what's the other one? Target this morning. I was looking for a t-shirt, I found one actually, it was lovely. We'll walk around Target and four of us, myself, Gary, Brian and Zach, Paddy wouldn't get up on bed, but anyway, we were walking through Target and we're saying hello to people. And people come with shopping carts and we're saying, how are you doing, good morning, how are you? And they're looking at us as if we three heads. But by the time we got halfway down the aisle, people were speaking back to us. Do you know what I mean? And that's an Irish thing. I think that's an Irish thing where we have this thing about the Céad Míle Fáilte, 100,000 welcomes. You know, this idea of being friendly, this idea of being welcoming. And I think we should embrace that stuff. Do you know what I mean? I really do. And again, the uninitiated, I think, see that as being paddy whackery. But I don't think this idea of paddy whackery really exists. I think I think people express themselves in all sorts of different ways. And as the point I made a few minutes ago is that I don't have to, and I don't need to go around wearing a green jersey or whatever, because my expression of Irishness is through my music, is through my accent, is through my teaching, my lecturing, whatever it is that I do for a living. But other people don't have them. They don't have that privilege. I'm very privileged. Do you know what I mean? You don't have that privilege, so you express it in whatever way that you feel, and you must do that. I believe that you have to do that, you know? So, any questions? I'm running out of steam now. Yes.
So I'm curious why you were born in Wales.
Yes.
And you moved to Ireland?
Yes.
So when did you move?
Well, both my parents are Irish, so they emigrated during the 1960s, late 1960s. There was an economic recession in Ireland, so they moved to Wales to find work, and it just so happened that I was born there, and I lived there for about 6 months, I think, and then they moved back to Ireland, and I've been there ever since.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why did they move right back?
Because things were beginning to pick up a bit.
Okay.
And they also knew what kind of a guy I was going to be as well. So. Yes.
What you were saying about choosing to be Irish, I used to take care of this lady, and her genealogy, their last name was Lowe.
Yeah.
Their first ancestor was actually a Prussian soldier who came here and fought with the British against the colonies. Well, when the war was over, he decided to stay.